By nearly a 2-to-1 margin, those who describe themselves as avid football fans believe Tom Brady and the Patriots cheated. Those fans said they support Brady's 4-game suspension and the team's $1 million fine and loss of draft picks when asked about Deflategate penalties in a national poll conducted by Espn and ABC, obviously by telephone and cell phone. This is what they say. 69% of avid fans think Brady cheated. Most support him, though, as a future Hall of Famer. 52% of all Americans see Brady as a good role model. But the public is divided on whether the Patriots' Super Bowl title is tainted. Let's take that word tainted as the operative one here. Joining us now is our NFL analyst, Darren Woodson. We're talking about Tom Brady's image. No matter what happens at the end of the day, do you believe that his image is tarnished?
I think there's always going to be the feeling from public opinion, especially because this thing has grown legs, that his image is going to take a hit. If you're asking the true football fan and the majority of the football players, the NFL guys that have played this game, we all know that Tom Brady, in my opinion, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of this era, hands down. Okay. And when you mention him over history, he's going to go in the history books as probably being number 2, 1 or 2, next to Joe Montana as the greatest quarterback of our generation. That has not changed, in my opinion. Regardless of this rules infraction, which I feel it is, a rules infraction, I don't feel like his image he should be tarnished from what he is. They won the Super Bowl outright. But the ball was plain and simple. It was a level playing field. They won that game outright. I think as a public image, I think you ask my mother, who I was on the phone with on the way up here, she'll tell you in a heartbeat, yeah, he's a cheater. But that doesn't. Yep. But what happened in that situation does not, in my opinion, call him a cheater. I think he's pushing the limits, which we all push the limits and push the envelopes, whether it be the team or individual players. Me personally, I'm going to push the limits to get a competitive edge on you.
But they're calling that gamesmanship. Can you explain the difference to me as a player?
Look, so I think gamesmanship comes in the fact of, offensive linemen putting grease on themselves to get a competitive advantage, so they can't get to a opposing player can't pull his jersey. Tanking it, we call it scuba. They call it scubaing when a defensive team is on their heels and the offense is in a 2-minute situation and the defense can't stop them. You have a player that'll lay it down on the field to get a timeout. We all do. That's gamesmanship.
It's not cheating.
Well, it depends on who you're asking. You're asking a defensive guy, hey, we're trying to get a break. It's just how we play. In free agency, you can't tell me that these teams aren't talking to players and agents before they sign them in free agency. It's a part of the game, and there are rules in place for a reason. The NFL is trying to stop it. And I think one thing we got to understand right now, the climate with the NFL right now, just the climate as a whole. They've gone through so much. The Ray Farmer incident where he's texting from the booth. The Rich McKay suspension where the Atlanta Falcons are piping in noise. All the infractions that we had off the field, the Ray Rice, the Adrian Peterson. The climate right now has left it that the NFL is going to have a heavy hand. And they have an extremely heavy hand in this situation. And I think this is no different. But I don't think it tarnishes in the end, I don't think it tarnishes who Tom Brady is as a football player.
All right. Stephen A.
The more I listen to folks like Darren Woodson and others, the more disgusted I get at Tom Brady. And here's why. Gamesmanship, cheating, finding a competitive edge in between the lines or whatever the case may be. We're talking about Tom Brady here. We're talking about one of the great players to have ever played this game. I think it's absolutely incredulous, beyond the pale, disrespectful for everyone or anyone out there who would try to use this to taint his legacy and his reputation, to act as if his 4 Super Bowl titles weren't legitimate, to act as if we have to look at him differently. He's not one of the greatest players anymore. And more importantly than anything else, to completely eradicate everything that he has been and everything that he has represented as a role model, as an ambassador for the NFL, and all of a sudden, that stuff is tarnished. That's ridiculous. Skip Bayless, Darren Woodson, I believe this man knew that the footballs were deflated. I believe this man had something to do with the footballs being deflated. And in no way do I believe that should affect his legacy or his reputation, not just as a great football player, but as a man. because I find this to be relatively innocuous in the grand scheme of things. I understand people who have played the game will sit there and say it gives you an unfair competitive advantage. I get football players making that argument and saying that he tried to get over, he tried to get caught. But one of the people that have been incredibly outspoken about this was my man Chris Carter, our colleague here at ESPN. And as outspoken as Chris Carter was, guys, I asked him. Shannon Sharp said Tom Brady, he wouldn't even go show up at the Hall of Fame if Tom Brady was inducted right now, because as far as he's concerned, he's a cheater. What do you say to that, Chris Carter? Chris Carter's response was, now that's going a bit extreme. I believe that Tom Brady tried to get an unfair advantage here, but in no way do I believe that that impugns his integrity, his reputation, what he has accomplished as a football player, what he is as a man. We all make mistakes. We move on. He tried to get over with this. He's being called out on this, but that's as far as it should go. And the reason why I say I'm disgusted with Tom Brady is that as we sit here talking about him, once again, Skip Bayless, myself, to some degree Darren Woodson, and others have spoken up for Tom Brady more than Tom Brady himself. Tom Brady from day one should have been about the business of, these are deflated footballs. Okay, handle your business, Roger Goodell, but don't you dare sit up there and try to tarnish my reputation as a professional football player, as an ambassador of this league, and more importantly, as a man of integrity because of this deflate issue. You're making it bigger than what it is. Instead, Tom Brady elected to sit back, play possum, and act like, oh, see no evil, hear no evil, I don't know anything. He has contributed to making this far worse than it ever should have been. He should have relied on who he is as a man and who he is as a future Hall of Famer. And that should have spoken for itself rather than people like myself and Skip Bayless having to do it for him.
And what disgusts me is that you continue, Stephen A. Smith, to leap to the conclusion that Tom Brady is guilty as charged here. I am not convinced. I am still not convinced that he is guilty. I think it is still highly possible that early in Tom Brady's career, back to 2001, that he told his ball boys, I like my footballs inflated at the lower end of regulation. They took it from there, or maybe somebody from above ordered them to take it from there, or maybe those footballs, as there was glaring discrepancy in the Wells report, weren't underinflated. I'm still not sure about that. You could be right. I could be right. I'm not sure. Tom Brady deserves his day in court, and trust me, he's going to get it. It might be later than sooner because these things take time, which brings me back to our poll. There's a whole segment of people out there, including your mother and maybe my mother, who just, they want to believe that he's guilty. Maybe they were predisposed not to like Tom Brady out of a little resentment or jealousy or whatever. They just don't like the Patriots. They don't like Belichick. Whatever it is, psychological trigger that says, he cheated. Well, in their minds, no matter what is about to come out in court down the road, you cannot change the minds of all these people. And I'm surprised that was that our Twitter poll that we did?
Yeah.
I was surprised that it was 52 to what, 40?
46 to
40.
40.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Like, I'm surprised that the people who are on Brady's side are up in the 40s. You know, like, wow, really? I thought it would be 90 to 10 because it seems to me, just from my experiences out in public, most people I run into have decided he is a cheater. And he will always be, in their minds, a cheater. He could go to court and completely win, where he gets everything removed, all the games removed. He could get Goodell fired over this, and people would still say, yeah, but you know he cheated.
Skip, I have a question for you. Okay. I have a question for you, Skip. I need your help here. Skip Bayless, you read the report and then immediately came back and said you thought it incriminated Tom Brady. You acknowledged there was no smoking gun. But the preponderance of circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial.
I'm not getting on you here. I'm not debating. I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
I'm just asking a question.
Sure.
I'm saying to you, I'm at a loss as to how you can have a problem with people drawing a conclusion that you drew, even when you read the report.
I don't. But then I began to do my homework. Remember, it came out the night before, and the next morning at 10 o'clock, I'm on the air. And you got me dead to rights here. I'm reading the circumstantial. I'm mostly reading the text. I'm reading Deflater, the guy McNally calling himself the Deflater. And I'm saying, gee, this looks bad. Now, I think as a violation, this is a serious violation, maybe even more than you do. This is cheating because it doesn't just affect the quarterback's ability to throw a softer ball. It affects the running back's ability to hang on to the softer ball. And they do not fumble as an organization. That's been their mantra. And I think it could have helped if in fact, they were underinflated. So, to me, Stephen A., the next day, you said, what should the penalty be? And I said, that's a 4-game suspension. That's like PEDs to me. So it's 4 games, and that's what he got. Well, then I began to do my homework, and I told you, and I don't want to keep beating this to death, but I talked to 3 people close to Brady. And they're saying, he's telling us he is 100% innocent. Usually in these circumstances, they might tell a confidant, yeah, they got me on this. You know, they got me dead to rights, but I'm going to fight it because I'm going to try to get it reduced to 2 games. He doesn't want it reduced at all. He wants it dismissed because he says, according to 3 people I know, he is completely innocent in this case.
Well, if that's the case, then why not just come out?
Because of what Jonathan Vilma said, the best way to do it is to let your lawyers fight.
I'm talking right when it happened. After that AFC Championship game, just be stronger at that point.
Exactly.
Just accept it.
And Darren, and Darren, my point is this. Look, again, Skip, I'm not trying. I've never sat here and said Tom Brady sat there and said, well, I want the footballs deflated to this level, like getting technical and literal like that. My issue was, you're the quarterback. Don't tell me you don't know that the football is deflated. And then when asked about it, he played dumb. And that was my issue. So my point to you is that we can get into all the legalese. You have a point, Skip. I've read the report. You're not the only one speaking the sources. Both of us do. But in the end, Tom Brady lost me when he tried to pretend as if he knew nothing. There's no way you're the quarterback and you know nothing.
Okay, but wait.
You know nothing.
Okay, scenario. You make it clear within your organization, I like my footballs inflated at the lower end. Aaron Rodgers likes his at the top end. He likes the bigger ball.
Sure.
Okay? So what if that's all you know for the rest of your career? I made it clear I like him at the lower end. You think he's measuring the footballs with a gauge?
But no, he's not. That's possible, but that's what Darren is saying. That's all he had to say. He didn't even say that, Skip. He categorically denied knowing anything.
Exactly. And right after the AFC Championship game, when you're in that press conference, just tell them, listen, I like the balls a certain way. My equipment staff knows I like it a certain way, and I'll accept that. It's a rules infraction. It's 25,000 or 200, whatever that number is. Slap me on the wrist, we move on. But at least I understand as a fan that, Tom Brady likes the ball a certain way.
And the NFL players that spoke against him, all the NFL players, Skip, that have spoken against him said that was where their problem with him began, when he tried to act like he didn't know anything.
Okay, there are 2 public Tom Bradys. There's the one who does his radio spots that he's paid to do, and the next morning, remember, he laughed at that notion. Remember the WEEI tape that we had? Now I've heard everything. He was laughing at it. Then there's the press conference Tom Brady, who has always been mealy-mouthed, golly gee, shrugging things off,
Skip,
like the guy next door. I'm sorry, that's the way he's always been.
Skip, but Skip, you're making a lot of concessions for his personality and stuff. But my God, Skip, this has been going on for months, man. Come on now.
Okay,
he could have said something.
What is he telling you right now? He hired Jeffrey Kessler, and he is going to legal war.
Now the legs. Now you're talking about public. Now the public opinion is really going to jump out there because now it has legs. And you're going to have a negative sense around. I mean, in the New England area, they're going to back him, but around the country, they're not going to back him.
All right.
What if he wins in court? What are you going to? Will that change your opinion?
No.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's done. It's tarnished.
That's over.
The image is tarnished, guys. Let's leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Coming up next, we're talking about NBA playoffs. Without Tony Allen, the Warriors dismantled the Grizzlies. We talk about that series as it heads back to Memphis in just a few moments. We'll be right back. Is divided on whether the Patriots' Super Bowl title is tainted. Let's take that word tainted as the operative one here. Joining us now is our NFL analyst, Darren Woodson. We're talking about Tom Brady's image. No matter what happens at the end of the day, do you believe that his image is tarnished?
I think there's always going to be the feeling from public opinion, especially because this thing has grown legs, that his image is going to take a hit. If you're asking the true football fan and the majority of the football players, the NFL guys that have played this game, we all know that Tom Brady, in my opinion, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of this era, hands down.
Okay.
And when you mention him over history, he's going to go in the history books as probably being number 2, 1 or 2, next to Joe Montana as the greatest quarterback of our generation. That has not changed, in my opinion. Regardless of this rules infraction, which I feel it is, a rules infraction, I don't feel like his image he should be tarnished from what he is. They won the Super Bowl outright.
By nearly a 2-to-1 margin, those who describe themselves as avid football fans believe Tom Brady and the Patriots cheated. Those fans said they support Brady's 4-game suspension and the team's $1 million fine and loss of draft picks when asked about Deflategate penalties in a national poll conducted by Espn and ABC, obviously by telephone and cell phone. This is what they say. 69% of avid fans think Brady cheated. Most support him, though, as a future Hall of Famer. 52% of all Americans see Brady as a good role model. But the public...
But the ball was plain and simple. It was a level playing field. He won. They won that game outright. I think as a public image, I think you ask my mother, who I was on the phone with on the way up here, she'll tell you in a heartbeat, yeah, he's a cheater. But that doesn't... But what happened in that situation does not, in my opinion, call him a cheater. I think he's pushing the limits, which we all push the limits and push the envelopes, whether it be the team or individual players. Me personally, I'm going to push the limits to get a competitive edge on you.
But they're calling that gamesmanship. Can you explain the difference to me as a player?
Look, so I think gamesmanship comes in the fact of, offensive linemen putting grease on themselves to get a competitive advantage, so they can't get to a opposing player can't pull his jersey. Tanking it. We call it scuba. They call it scubaing. When a defensive team is on their heels and the offense is in a 2-minute situation and the defense can't stop them, you have a player that'll lay it down on the field to get a timeout. We all do. That's gamesmanship.